with the mission to keep as many men and as many guns for as long as possible.
Right after I'm done speaking.
He called him Doc. Welcome to Combat Vet Vision. And now your host, Aaron Chief Seberg.
Hey, how's everybody doing? Hey, this is Combat Vet Vision. This
Sorry
is where I get to.
Yeah, you can remove your.
This is where I get to talk about my opinion on things. Those people that come on board with me talk about their opinion on a lot of different issues, things of that nature. You know, this is to educate the public on combat vet issues. It's also there to help a veteran out that might be dealing with something somewhere, somehow. You know, I bring on a lot of different combat vets to talk about their opinions, their things, their issues, what they're dealing with in life, how their transition went, different things of that nature. And sometimes I bring on our sponsors, supporters, and volunteers. Right now I have Myke Monroe on deck, and he is Chamber of Commerce for Wildomar and Marietta area. He's also on the Southwest Veteran Committee thing that's getting ready to kick off. So, hey, Myke, thanks for being on my show, man. It's great to have you.
Hey, Chief, thanks for having me. And I know it's a mouthful, but I currently am representing the Southwest Riverside County Military Affairs Committee. Southwest Riverside County being defined as Temecula, Murrieta, Wildomar, Lake Elsinore, and Menifee. About 33,000 vets and their families we represent.
Yes, and you're one of the biggest Chamber of Commerce's in California, if I'm not mistaken.
I wouldn't say in California, but we have a very diverse and a very robust membership. Currently, about 700 members of the chamber. And what's crazy is that the chamber is actually my day job. The Southwest Riverside County Military Affairs Committee is a separate 501c3 that I essentially volunteer my time for. It's just as someone who has a heart to serve those who have served. The chamber day job gives me a lot of leverage when it comes to picking up the phone. In fact, I was just joking the other day about, I call us the chamber, and, people were like, oh, yeah, I totally want to be involved with that. It's like, oh, this is cool. I was a cold call salesperson for the longest time, and now working for the chamber, it's always still surprising to me that I call someone and they're like, yes, I want to do that. I'm still not used to this. This is amazing.
Right. And we go back about 3 years, and
Sure.
I joined the chamber. I mean, Warrior Built and then the PTSD Foundation joined the chamber because we were already part of Lake Elsinore's Chamber of Commerce, and what was cool about that is that it introduces you to a lot of different things. You know, you go to these other meetings, you get to meet a lot of different organizations and jobs and things of that nature that's going on. And with everything that's going on with veterans and how they're going to transition, there's a lot of need to know people out there. And how do you do that? You know, how do you really come together and do some of that? And, it just leads to a lot of really cool things that, things that you don't even know, guys that show up, you spin them my way. I know you've had veterans that are dealing with things come my way. You've had great businesses that have helped and supported us in a lot of different ways. So, amazing stuff that you're doing.
Thank you.
And tell me about this.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. So go ahead and talk about that a little bit, and then we'll get into what your committee is all about and what your plans are and what's going on with all these cool things that you're involved in.
Yeah. Thank you, Chief. The chamber above all else is absolutely that. It's connection. I always like to say, at the end of the day, the chamber is the business compass, right? I'm always here to just point you in the right direction. I'm proud to tell you that, we open a lot of doors. Even through the pandemic last year, we had close to 400 direct connections, whether it be for collaboration or just direct business. And those were just the ones that we were able to track. I mean, that's coming from staff or folks that are like board or ambassador that I can actually track. I mean, it's just always about connection. So, we're a big fan of Warrior Built and the PTSD Foundation, and anything that we can do to support, we're always there, right? And the crazy thing, and just the way that the chamber and the veteran community can really, work together is, a lot of the Military Affairs Committee started from actually a House Committee of Veteran Affairs meeting I was watching, right? So Mike Levin, representative, and then Mark Takano are two absolutely stellar supporters of our veteran community, right? And they're standing there and they're talking, and they're bringing up all these things about how, there needs to be more community engagement with the veteran. Veterans need to have a place where there's tangible that they can connect with, and even get some of their transition training, or just access to things like employment, education, or entrepreneur things, all the things that are like a part of the transition process, right? You would have thought I was watching like the Super Bowl or something, because I'm sitting here screaming at the computer screen like Chambers of Commerce, right? Chambers of Commerce, Chambers of Commerce. I'm like yelling, and at no point are they talking about how Chambers of Commerce would be a great interface for the veteran community, right? So then I ended up, linking up with Maurita Wilson, who actually happened to be on that call from the San Diego Veterans Coalition, who was an absolute stud, by the way, if you don't know him. From there, that's kind of where this whole Southwest Riverside County Military Affairs Committee has spawned off. Is ultimately, the chamber is just a great local node that has access to all these great resources, and we wanted to make sure that we put it under a 501c3 flag that really gave us the ability to serve. So,
yeah, and I think it's a lot of people don't know. You can go to the chamber and ask a lot of questions and get a lot of answers, or a lot of direction that's going to lead to a lot of the answers that you need. Mm-hmm. And even I forget sometimes. It seems like everybody asks me a question, and hey, do you have a resource for this? And it takes me about 2 days to go, you know what? Maybe I need to call Myke Monroe.
Always call me. I just had a guy from Virginia who's transitioning out. He called the city of Murrieta. Murrieta then had him get in touch with myself and Scott, and he's opening a wood shop business here, right? He's transitioning out into Virginia. So I mean, there's always somewhere, someone at the chamber can point you in the right direction. So
yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah.
So tell me about this the committee that's kicking off, and why are you involved in it, and what is it that's it's your passion? It's a whole bunch of things for you. So let's talk about that.
Well, Chief, I seriously appreciate this opportunity to share the screen with you, but also with your followers here, and ultimately the Southwest Riverside County Military Affairs Committee was put together solely because there's a disparity of resources here in Southwest Riverside County. So like if you're in Riverside area, you throw a rock in any direction, you're going to hit some great resource, right? The Veteran Service Office, the March Air Reserve Base is right there. You have resources available. San Diego, don't even get me started. You throw a rock in any direction, you're going to hit probably a veteran and a resource right next to each other, right? Just very dense markets for both of these. And, for someone who's been working with specifically the veteran business community for so long, I started to notice that there was really a disparity, right? The closest veteran business outreach center is in Mira Costa, which is in Carlsbad. And there's really not a lot that is here tangible for our military community to access, right? So census data just came out, 33,000 plus. Actually, it's 33,200 just with veteran status in Southwest Riverside County. It's insane to think about.
It really is. And, if you look at, I look at the retirement states for the largest retirement communities of combat vets. I deal with combat vets so much. And our whole area, Temecula, Marietta, Lake Elsinore, and the whole Riverside balance right there with we cross right over into the county of San Diego. Mm-hmm. But in that is the fifth. I'm pretty sure it's the fifth largest retirement community of combat vets alone. So there's so many things about it that people just don't understand. And when you talk about resources that aren't available in an area that's so high in retirement pieces. But that was basically because the housing market was super affordable in our area. So that's why a lot of veterans retired in that area, because we were commuting to Camp Pendleton for a long time, and that
Menifee alone is 11.5%. 11.5 just in Menifee. It's insane. So to give you an idea, Oceanside, which is right next to Pendleton, right, is only 10.1, and that's just veteran, right? Not to mention like all the active, because you're totally right with this exodus that happened from like Orange County and the LA area, and then especially northward from San Diego there. I mean, they've so many of their families have gravitated here, and right now the big question is, we know how many veterans are here, but how many active duty are making the transition, or not the transition, but the commute down to Pendleton or Miramar or 32nd Street. It's crazy because the census doesn't track that for locally here. So
yeah, so it's huge, and just so people can get an idea of where we're talking about, and if you go 70 miles to LA or 70 miles to San Diego, basically this area is right in the center. 60 to 70 miles, it's right in the middle, and it's about 30 to 40 miles back from the ocean. It's literally a great hub for anything you want to do in San Diego, LA, 29 Palms, well, or not 29 Palms, another base, but I want to say, hot springs, desert hot springs to, all these areas that a lot of people flock to. A lot of people go to a lot of these areas. And Lake Elsinore is really the hub of a lot of these things. Well, for me, it's Lake Elsinore, Marietta, Wildomar, and Temecula. So geographically, that's just to give, listeners that maybe don't know the area, that scope. We're just right in the middle of a lot of really incredible things that create a different type of atmosphere for, but you're commuting, and the commute is getting crazier and crazier.
It really should be 50 minutes to LA. It's ridiculous. Like I came back from LAX late one night when I flew back from Kentucky for a conference one time, and it literally took me 55 minutes to get from LAX. And I mean, I wasn't even flying, man. There's just no traffic. It's insane how much.
What time did you say?
I flew in at like 1:50, and then I drove back like 1:50, and then I got back whatever 55 minutes was after that. So I know, right? It's all traffic. It's all traffic. That same trip going out there, 3 hours. I kid you not.
Yeah, 3 hours. Yeah, it's insane.
It's insane.
Yeah. So this committee is basically going to be set up to kind of pull in and work with and deal with a lot of veteran-centric activities, things that need to happen for them, transition-wise, facilities, and things that are going to be beneficial for our veterans.
I would say its primary focus is obviously to connect and convene, right, our military community here, but also identify. We're in the process of buttoning up our strategic plan for 23-25. And we're really emulating a lot of what we're doing after another organization that has too long a name as well, the Orange County Veterans and Military Families Collaborative. And they do a lot of great things directly helping, like especially in homelessness and in housing. They have a great faith-based working group, things of that nature. So here locally, we found that, we're really having great success with specifically entrepreneurship and employment. So we've been having great success with programs like Hiring Our Heroes, which has both a great program for transitioning military, which that's a whole nother nutshell. I could talk for like 40 minutes just on the transition bit, but then also military spouses. So there was a person in leadership down in Pendleton that told us when we were first kind of getting this thing underway, that if we could really make a big difference, he'd like to see us make a big difference in military spouses for families, things of that nature. So we've actually had a couple of spouses placed through the U.S. Chamber Foundation program. But I think ultimately, Aaron, at the end of the day, when you think about the Military Affairs Committee, our job is to be a neutral. Same kind of principle as the chamber, right? Where it's neutral ground. It's a safe space for any organization that wants to celebrate and support a veteran. Or family or active military, right? So what the goal is to really, I think 30,000 foot wise, is to really kind of kill the silo mentality. You talk to a lot of great organizations, especially in the San Diego market, right? They're all doing amazing things, but they're all doing amazing things on their own. And where the rubber meets the road, where we can really make a massive difference in really have something special that will change a veteran's life for the better or their family's life for the better is to have a neutral party that can essentially be the marketing mechanism and a safe space to get the word out and promote harmony with the entire organizations here locally. So that's essentially what we aim to do. I know San Diego Veterans Coalition is another example of this, and it seems to work really, really, really well. So
nice. And I'm actually part of the San Bernardino subcommittee, veteran subcommittee.
Nice.
And we meet monthly, and I get on the calls. We've actually briefed Warrior Built and the PTSD to the committee a couple of times, and these things are super important because it just gives you a sounding board. It like you said, the neutral ground. And why is that important? And I'll say this, some of the reasons why is because you got a lot of nonprofits out there doing incredible things, and a lot of people feel like a lot of times you feel like you're competing for different funds for different things. But sometimes it's just going to take the right person at the right time. But there's a lot of politics involved in that. And that's why you're saying the neutral piece. And obviously you see a lot of politics in business and all the things that you got to deal with the chamber. But, you set that aside and you really kind of say, hey, where does the rubber hit the road? And that's something that I take a lot of pride in, talking to our vets at different times and just saying, hey, man, this is what I'm here for. I don't spend a lot of time promoting my show. I don't spend a lot of time trying to, the show doesn't make me any money. The show is just specifically for this. But to get the education piece out there, to give that, to help a vet out, to help somebody out some way, some form, that's super important. And I think that's when you say a neutral ground, you got to weigh all that politics out and just say, hey, what can we do to help? And this is a great fit for this organization. It may not be for this one and this one, but a lot of organizations feel like they're jealous or they got to compete. And in a lot of senses you do, but in a lot of senses you don't. Just be who you are, and go in there and talk a good talk, and make sure you are where the rubber hits the road and everything works out. And so I'm glad you're bringing that up. I'm glad you have all that stuff, and
that's one of the biggest complaints that I've heard across the board is that there's all of these great organizations that are trying to eat the what's the selling, right? The saying, eat the elephant one bite at a time, right? The problem is it's just, they're all just taking this little bites of the elephant. And realistically, if we come together, I mean, we can really solve a problem, right? And it's insane just across the board, no matter who I'm talking to. There's a lot of organizations that we're looking to for inspiration. And, this is almost always the thing that people are talking about is that we need to find a way to come together. We need to find a way to essentially eat the elephant as a team instead of, one bite at a time kind of thing. So,
yeah, I was at Wounded Warrior Battalion West as the command chief there, as a guy that got to see multiple different organizations pour in there. I mean, huge amount. And it was incredible to see that we had to put something together to make that work. And the battalion came out with this really awesome program to pull all these guys together and say, hey, this is for you. These dates are for you. This is what's going to work for you. And they come in there and really do it. And when you have all these organizations pulling together to make something happen, and this is for a military purpose, then when I stepped out, I understood the politics of that. I understood that, we just all need to come together. And, that's something that I think about, I talk about. And even though I represent, even on my show, a lot, Warrior Built and the PTSD Foundation of America, Operation Silver Star, so many, I'm veteran support deep down in my heart. I'm a retired Navy chief, lucky to be alive after being hit with a mortar round. And really, I like to vet each one of these organizations that want to do something. And I can't vet them all, but I do love to see what they're doing and really feel like, hey, that's a worthwhile organization. And I'd love to have any of them on my show. There's no, I know I push so much on these issues, but I'll push your issue out there. If you really have something that you want to talk about and you want to talk about it and it's good, I want to promote it. I want you to come on and talk about it and make it happen. I haven't had that many sponsors, supporters, and volunteers on, but shoot, it's great to have you, Myke, on to
I feel so honored. It's amazing.
Well, you're in the business side of the world where you've known that it's part of something that you've worked your whole life, or your career wise, that I don't have that experience. I have the experience of a military person that going through the issues of personnel and dealing with market, dealing with a budget that's comes from a government entity, and it's not something I'm selling. It's not something that it's just, hey, we got to go out and do our job and protect the nation as it is, and deal with the issues that we're dealing with. You, on the other hand, have a lot more clout in that business world, and how you're going to manage a lot of that is really going to be incredible to me. I'll enjoy listening to it, be part of it, and dialing in. And
on that note, I'm going to need help. I got to tell you. So, I mean, what's nice is that, and because it's the chamber, we don't ever really ask for money, right? It's always about, it's about people being involved above all else, right? What's happening right now is that where the committee meets once a month. It is virtual because we pipe in people from all over the U.S. So some of the folks that we had General Denton Knapp from the Orange County Veterans Military Family Collaborative. We've had Keisha from the Workshop for Warriors down in San Diego. Raven with Milvet, our local. Everybody knows Raven. We love her. Also, Nonprofit of the Year for the Chamber of Commerce. That's right.
Yes.
I mean, we've had
She's awesome.
I can't say enough good about Raven. Actually, on the topic of help, she's really involved in what we're doing. And actually, she's a good point to talk about is that, I know as our working groups, right, start to get formulated, I know she was interested in really helping us define what the resources and things of that nature are going to be. Because I think to tie back to one of the things that you said, Chief, that I really appreciated is that there really are just a ridiculous amount of organizations and opportunities to frankly get the help and the support and the benefits, frankly, that you've earned as a service member, right? Sometimes though, and I know you and I were kind of talking about trust in the beginning of this, it's tough to trust. It's tough to know what thread to pull, right? And it's funny. I was just sitting with someone from the VA that's higher up there, and he's talking about we need to identify this and identify that. And I'm like, why? I've already done this for you, right? As the chamber, I have the ability to kind of vet some of these a little deeper than other organizations, right? We've got kind of this perfect storm thing happening. So it's I know as we start to kind of formulate, we have essentially the main committee, which meets on a monthly basis, and we have a presentation from something that is going to be applicable, tangible, that can be benefit to our local community, business connecting to the veterans, or vice versa, right? All these different things. But then as we move into 2022, we'll start to have what we call working groups, which will have specific focuses on like entrepreneurship. We'll have one for employment, which again, those are the two things that we've had the best success with thus far. We have one for PR, one for resources. So right now, really above all else is I need people to be involved, right? If you have personal experience with like a business program, say like the Veteran Business Outreach Center down in Mira Costa, or if you've been through the Service to CEO program through the Rosie Network, which is fabulous, or if you've gotten one of the discounted programs from like VetFran, right? There's all these great things that are out there. If you have personal experience with them, I want to hear from you. And I also want to put you to work. I'm going to be completely candid with you. So there's a lot of good that's going to be done here. There's going to be, I'm really hoping for some real good, a good tangible space that we can help, ultimately have our veterans and families find their way to ultimately get the access to a lot of these things. But more importantly, have someone, like myself, who's terrorized all these organizations, like, hey, no, this is the one that you want to talk to. Like, you are in this part of business, you need to talk with VBOC, or, you're getting started, you should probably get a SCORE mentor. Here's a SCORE mentor that's specifically tailored towards military. So that's kind of the ecosystem, if you will.
No, it's a great model, great plan, and there's a lot of people that talk about that plan that I've ran into. And it's not just, it's not just you, it's veterans that want to help veterans. It's, it's a lot of things. I mean, when you look at, the model for Warrior Built, it's got a gym, it's got a music room, it's got all these things, but, veterans have to want to come and want to be part of that, and that's the key factor, because a lot of guys are on their program, they're already in a like a path to their destiny, or the path that they think that they want and need. And so it's kind of hard to derail that path if you have some of these programs, but it's such a needed thing, because, a lot of these guys, they end up off, a lot of these veterans, we have so many homeless veterans, so many guys dealing with PTSD, so many suicides because they've failed at their path, or there's whatever the reason is causing them to really crash and burn. And we're just trying to draw them back. And I think, the program that you're about ready to light up, and, I think that's going to help out, especially you're the right guy for the job.
Thanks,
so
yeah, I definitely want to piggyback on that, because there was someone who's been very inspirational to me personally as I've been through this. Navy vet, kicking a bunch of butt right now, working on the heels of a policy that was initially in Congress, but got shot down. But it's when I first got a chance to really sit down and talk with him, he was telling me, Myke, we're looking at some veteran suicide. We're looking at veteran homelessness. We're looking at all these major problems, and we're trying to fix the problems after they've already happened. And those, it's great. It's needed. We need to be able to help those people who have fallen off on that. But what we need to do most importantly is figure out how this happened. Like, what happened to put these folks or these veterans in this position. And he's really looking deeply at the transition part of it. And then more importantly, having access to your transition opportunities in your transition training, really 24/7 after you transition. It's really kind of sometimes striking the disparity between, what goes into creating a soldier versus what, comes into, putting a civilian back into rotation, if you will.
Oh yeah, it is. Yeah, I definitely understand. I mean, I understand that. And what's cool is, like, some of the things have really taken hold. One of my buddies is getting ready to transition now. He's a master sergeant getting ready to retire, and he's basically working in a program that's designed so that when he leaves the military, he goes right into that job. So the military's doing a handoff, even though
which branch is it?
Marine Corps.
Marine, of
so
course.
He's got 6 months. He's got 6 months left, and they're letting him work at a job.
DoD Skills Bridge.
Yeah, the Skills Bridge, right?
Pendleton is so good about that. They're like the number one charger of that. So Pat Keplinger and his whole transition.
When did that happen? I mean, that's a huge, cool program. It wasn't there when I retired. I mean, I retired in 2011, but I mean, dang, it's pretty nice.
You know what? I think the Skills Bridge might have been around during that time, but I think it was just in its inception. That's been They have a really good catalog of their programs this year. I know 2019 had a better catalog. They have a really, like, you can do the M Sport program where you can go and work on BMWs. And as long as your CO signs off on it, it's like up to 60 days that you can kind of moonlight as a civilian while you're still active military. Pendleton is the only base that does this, though. Like, a buddy of mine is currently
29 Palms, because it's part of Pendleton.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean so technically, right? So 32nd Street and Coronado are supposed to also do their DoD stuff through Camp Pendleton. But I've been noticing that like a lot of the folks that are transitioning out of the Navy installations down south there aren't aware of these things. So this is a perfect example of these programs that we're like screaming from the rooftops, right? Because they're so cool and so few people know about. Like so few people know about them.
And let me just put this out there to the people that might be like, he's in the military, he's supposed to be doing his military job, blah blah blah, and this and this, right? So we got guys that have done 20 years of service that are about ready to step out, and they've gone through more training, more classes, more this, more that, and they, they've led troops, they've done all these incredible things, but maybe they don't have a degree. And because they don't have a degree, when they get out of the military, that doesn't translate into anything. So you go from being this guy in the military to an absolute zero, and you want to know, what that probably does. And you want to talk about the 22 suicides a day. Some of these things lead to that reason. So for this program to exist, it's a great handoff, and it gives these guys a sense of, hey, I still get to go out there and do a job. And maybe that job isn't what they're really going to end up doing, but at least it's a window so that their transition is somewhat nice and somewhat set up. And I'm not discounting the fact that going to college and this and that, but most of Americans are going through this process where they went to school, they're making a lot of money, they're going through these programs, they've gotten degrees, they've done all these things, and they've built themselves into this job that's going to carry them all the way through life. In the military, you do 20 years, we retire, and those retirements are sitting at like $1,200 a month for a high enlisted guy. And you talk about a master sergeant retiring, you might be pulling 18, 20,000, maybe $2,000 a month on a retirement if without any benefits. So that's a guy that went through tons of schooling in the military that doesn't account to nothing, because ultimately our military career doesn't translate into communication with people either. The minute I want to open up and talk about war, it doesn't always, hey, I don't really want to talk about that. It just doesn't work out sometimes, our conversations. So, these things are pretty cool. And this bridge program is an amazing program for these guys, for anybody out there. So, yeah.
And I can say, especially at least from my experience, right? And this is all I can speak to on this sense, with working with especially the transition readiness program, from anything Marine based. They are very hands-on, and it's that whole, changing your language from military to civilian and being able to tell your story a little bit. If you're getting really involved in talking with the teams at some of these transition entities, they're really doing some amazing work.
Well, that's great. And it's good stuff that you're doing, Myke. And, before we close out, man, I just want to give you the opportunity to talk about anything else you feel like you want to talk about. If somebody wants to get a hold of you, I put a lot of information in the show notes. Some of those things are, but if somebody wants to get a hold of you, you definitely can do it through me, just so you know. But yeah, feel free to put anything else out there, Myke, and talk about your, how somebody might get a hold of you.
Aye. Well, two things. We'll start with this. You can ring me anytime, and I encourage you to do so on my cell phone. Chamber and in the Military Affairs Committee side of things, communication is frankly the thing that makes this whole thing work. So call me, text me, whatever clever, 951-412-8325. Once again, 951-412-8325. And just always think of me as a walking compass. I'll always point you in the right direction. Also shamelessly plug, because that's my nickname, is the shameless plug. So if you'd like to be involved with the Military Affairs Committee, there's a lot of good things happening. We specifically focus in, once again, here on Southwest Riverside County, but we bleed into like Paris and Hemet and San Jacinto as well. Frankly, if you're a veteran and I can be of service to you, I'm going to. So we have a very special Military Affairs Committee meeting coming up this week, the 23rd. If you'd like to join me for that, please reach out to me and I will send you the Zoom invite. And then probably the biggest thing, and again, this is a testament to that whole, sometimes I'm really surprised that who says yes when I call them. It's truly crazy. So we have a big entrepreneur program coming up on the 29th. It's 11 to 12 p.m. Or 11 to 1200. And essentially we have Stephanie Brown from the Rosie Network, which is an incredible organization out of San Diego. Once again, Matt Wiggins with VetFran, which is the veteran arm of the International Franchise Association. Because as I was telling Chief earlier, 14% of all franchisees are actually veteran-owned. Who knew, right? And then last but not least, the new director for the Southern California Region Veterans Business Outreach Center, Director Kelly Anthus, is going to be on this panel, right? all facilitated by a local veteran business owner to kind of talk about why these things are awesome and how these things helped his business. Because that's the thing that drives me most nuts about this. And I'll finish with this, right? There's just such a vast amount of great resources available to military. And frankly, y'all earned it. I mean, you earned it. That's the whole point of this. You earned it. So I was talking with a Vietnam vet the other day. I mean, you got to think about how long has this guy been, transitioned out, right? Owns a major construction company here, has been talking about breaking into government contracting. Him and I are sharing a very nice local made bourbon. And he's kind of complaining about how this one guy wants $5,000 to get him his veteran service classification certification through the SBA. And I'm like, what are we doing? Just call the VBOC. They'll do it for you for free. What are you talking about? So, spiraled down, boom, sure enough, the VBOC, it was like the best thing. And it was free, saved him $5,000, right? So please, 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 there's so many great resources that are available to you. Check out impactsouthwestriversidecounty.org for a whole list of local ones that I've had the pleasure of terrorizing. And more importantly, if there's a resource that you'd like to see on that list because you've had a great experience, holler at me. I will take care of you. I promise you.
Thanks a lot, Myke.
Thank
you so much. Hey, this is Aaron Siebert. This is Combat Vet Vision. This is where a lot of us get to come together. We talk about our issues, things that are going on, incredible things like the Chamber of Commerce's and these veteran committees that are really trying to come together to make a difference. So until next time, hey, this is Aaron Siebert, retired Navy Chief, signing off. Strength and honor. Out.